Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Prabhupada Disciples Association Sunday morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, where we read from the unadulterated, unedited books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. That may not seem like a very big deal to some people, but to all of us, it is a very key part of what we're doing, which is to maintain Śrīla Prabhupāda and his teachings, his pure teachings, at the center of our lives. This is Krishna Consciousness, is to be connected with the pure devotee of the Lord, and he is present in sound vibration. It is called the Vani Incarnation. And this is the work of the Prabhupada Disciples Association, to keep Prabhupada and his teachings at the focal point of our lives. So I want to thank everyone who's participating in this ongoing sadhana program, because really sadhana bhakti means nasta prayeshu abradeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya, by regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or the Gita class or Chaitanya Charitamrita classes that we're holding online. All the inauspicious things within the heart of the devotee become erased, and thus loving service unto the Lord becomes established as an irrevocable fact. So the basis of our process is hearing and chanting in association with like-minded devotees. And this is the method that Śrīla Prabhupāda gave us when he was personally present on this earth with us, and spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's a very exact process. It's not something that you can just manufacture based on your own whim, and then you carry on and set up this or that and establish your own cottage industry business. This is an exact science. And the Prabhupada Disciples Association is about representing this science without adulteration, without motive, except to share Krishna consciousness with each one of us. And in this way, each one of us is benefited by the attendance in these classes. So thank you very much globally. We very much appreciate your participation. And please, if you have a chance, please share this link with your friends if you want them to be on our mail out, the internet mail out, let's say. Then you can be in touch with us, or you can be in touch with through the Prabhupada Disciples Association, or send personally to myself or Yaśodā, or to Vinkat or Vijay Pandit in Italy, whoever's with you, Aprakrita in Montreal, Jonas Priya in Hawaii, all the different devotees that are with us. Just reach out to them and they'll connect you into the mail out to everyone before the classes, so you make sure you don't miss this opportunity to get the association of devotees who are focused on the mission of Lord Chaitanya based on the teachings of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So here we are, we're back at the beginning, the 1966 New York Journal. Now someone could say, well, why are you reading this? Doesn't have a lot of information. In a sense, it's not a a scripture like the Bhagavatam that we're reading, and the detailed explanations about the science of Krishna consciousness, but it does reveal the behavior of a pure devotee. Śrīla Prabhupāda, his behavior, how he conducted his daily affairs. And in this way, we can follow in his footsteps in the best way that we feel possible, depending on our circumstances. So we're going to carry on with the reading and how Prabhupada was conducting himself daily. And we're back in April 1966. It's a Tuesday, April 19th, 1966. So it was sunrise was at 5:10 a.m. and sunset was at 6:50, and moonrise was 4:57. On Avashya today, I went to see Dr. J.K. Banerjee, but he was not in his office. I left on his table the matter for press report, no letter received. And the expenditure was 45 cents plus. Wednesday, April 20th, 1966. Time flies. Sunrise 5:08 a.m., sunset 6:51 p.m., moonrise 6:48 p.m., Pratipada. Paid Paul $1 for expenditures. This was in the loft where Prabhupada was conducting his preaching work. Today I took my meals at Dr. Mishra's place. I took back the TR and tried for its repair without any success. Expenditures for bus fare was 45 cents. Evening meeting at 7 to 9, only Prabhupada mentions here, only 4 persons attended. The collection was $4. So everyone gave $1, it seems. I'm guessing. Thursday, April 21st, sunrise 5:06 a.m., sunset 6:52 p.m., moonrise 7:58, Dvicha. Bus fare 30 cents, Paul paid $2, expenditures was $2.30. She's steady giving Paul money. Friday, April 22nd, 1966, sunrise 5:05 a.m., sunset 6:53 p.m., moonset 9:09, Tritiya, bus fare 45 cents, paid Paul $1, expenditures was $1.45. In the evening, 5 gentlemen attended, and the contribution was $4. So it wasn't that people were banging down the door to try to join the Krishna Consciousness movement. And Prabhupada's been going on now for over a year, from September 19th, 1965. We're now at April 23rd, 1966. Saturday, April 23rd, sunrise 5:04 a.m., sunset 6:55 p.m., moonset 10:20, Chaturthi, Paul paid $2. Bus fare was 15 cents. Expenditures was $2.15. Today I went to the Ananda Ashram at noon. Dr. Mishra paid all my expenses for going. And Sunday, there we are, Prabhupada on his way. So humble. Sunday, April 24th, 1966. Sunrise 5:02 a.m., 5:56 p.m. Moonsets 11:30. Panchami. Today I remained the whole day at the Ananda Ashram. Came back in the evening. Paul was not in the apartment. Expenditure bus fare 15 cents. Received 2 letters at 72nd, one from Vrindavan, the other from the Secretary President. Talked with Mrs. Siljan Richter, and she was located at 93 Lincoln Road, Brooklyn, New York. And Prabhupada took her phone number, 857-3409. So he's following up with everyone that he's dealing with. This is part of true, if I could say, acumen on how to achieve something. Follow up, constantly follow up, be in contact with the new people that you're working with in your particular areas. Concentrate on new people. Those are going to be the most enlivening association for you moving forward in 2023. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. We're going to have the kirtan recorded back in the 60s of Śrīla Prabhupāda playing the bongo. And remember this, Prabhupada was an expert musician, and Vinkat was playing the beautiful bhajan at the beginning. And you can hear how expert Prabhupada was playing the mridangam and the harmonium. It's on separate recordings, and demonstrated that a devotee is expert on many different levels. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda, all glories to the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Amasva Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattvaresvara Smadhva-Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Nāma-ācārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsādi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Bhagavanath Sam Khand Radha Khand Giridhar ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya की जाए, जमुना माई की जाए, गुरु द्वारका धाम की जाए, स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए, ऑल ग्लोरी टू देयर समिल, ऑल ग्लोरी टू देयर समिल। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. So as usual, when we read those Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam verses, we will be reading a few verses describing the unique position and transcendental benefit of reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. First, it's important to remember when we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, how Śrīla Prabhupāda has translated this. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I do offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Very sweet. Next, from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 16. Hold on. Text number 17. Shrinvatam svakata Krishnaham punyashravana kirtanaham hridyantasto yabhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18, Canto 1, Chapter 2, 18. Nashta prayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Text 19. Tadharajatamo bhavaha kamalo bhadayaschaye chetayeterana viddham stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, At that time, the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in the mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Text number 20. Evam prasanna manasu bhagavad bhaktiyo gataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord The reason we read these verses is because we've been asked several times, why so much emphasis on attending the Bhagavatam class? Now, within the Bhagavatam itself, as we've just seen, there's great transcendental benefits in hearing the message of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion, also known sometime as a class. We've structured these events in the way that we read. We also quote from Śrīla Prabhupāda and open up various discussions and questions. Today we are reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition, all English synonyms, translation and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Today we'll be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 3, text number 5. Etannanavataranam nidhanam bhijamavyayam yasyam sa amsena srijyanti devatiryam naradayaha. Etat, this form, nana, multifarious, avataranam, of the incarnations, nidhanam, source, bijam, seed, avyam, indestructible, yasya, whose, amsha, plenary portion, amsena, part of the plenary portion, srijante, create, deva, demigod, tiryam, animals, naradayaha, human beings. Translation by His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda. This second manifestation of Purusha form is the source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe, and from the particles and portion of this form, different living entities like the demigods, human being, or other than human beings are created. Purport. The Purusha, after creating innumerable universes in the Mahatattva, enters in each of them as the second Purusha, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. When he saw that within the universe it is all darkness and is full of space only without any resting place, he filled up half of the universe with water of his own perspiration of the body, and he laid himself down on the same water. This water is called Garbhodak or Garbha Udak. Then from his navel the stem of the lotus flower sprouted, and on the flower petals the birth of Brahma, or the master engineer of the universal plan, took place. Brahma became the engineer of the universe, and the Lord himself took charge of the maintenance of the universe as Vishnu. Brahma is generated from Rajaguna of the Prakriti, or the modes of passion in nature, and Vishnu became the Lord of the modes of goodness. Vishnu being transcendental to all the modes, he is always aloof from the materialistic affection. This is already explained before. And from Brahma there is Rudra, who is in charge of the modes of ignorance or darkness. He destroys the whole creation by the will of the Lord. Therefore, all the three, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, are all incarnations of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. From Brahma, the other demigods like the Daksha, Marichyadi, Manu, and many others became incarnated for generating living entities within the universe. This Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is glorified in the Vedas in the hymns of the Garbhastuti, which begins with the description of the Lord as having thousands of heads, etc. The Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the Lord of the universe, and although he appears to be lying within the universe, he is always transcendental. This is also already explained. Vishnu, who is the plenary portion of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, is the supersoul of the universal life, and he is known as the maintainer of the universe, or Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So the three features of the original Purusha is thus understood. And all the incarnations within the universe are emanations from this Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. In different millennium, there are different incarnations, and they are innumerable, although some of them are very prominent, as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Rama, Nrisimha, Vamana, etc., and so many others. These incarnations are called Leela incarnations. Then there are qualitative incarnations such as the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or Rudra, who takes charge of the different modes of material nature. Lord Vishnu is non-different from the personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is in the marginal position between the personality of Godhead and the living entities or jivas. Brahma is always a jiva tattva. The highest pious living being, or the greatest devotee of the Lord, is empowered with the potency of the Lord for creation, and he is called the Brahma. His power is like the power of the sun reflected in valuable stones and jewels. When there is no such living being to take charge of the post of Brahma, the Lord himself becomes a Brahma and takes charge of the post. Lord Shiva is not ordinary living being. He is the plenary portion of the Lord, but because Lord Shiva is in direct touch with the material nature, he is not exactly in the same transcendental position as Lord Vishnu. The difference is like that of milk and curd. Curd is nothing but milk, and yet it cannot be used in place of the milk. The next incarnations are the Manus. Within 1 day's duration of the life of Brahma, which is calculated by our solar years as 4,300,000 multiplied by 100,000 years, there are 14 Manus. Therefore, there are 420 Manus in 1 month of Brahma, and 5,040 Manus in 1 year of Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years of his age, and therefore there are 5,040 multiplied 100, or 5,04,000 of Manus in the duration of Brahma's life. There are innumerable universes with one Brahma in each of them. and all of them are created and annihilated during the breeding time of the Purusha. Therefore, one can simply imagine how many crores of Manus are there by one breeding of the Purusha. The Manus who are prominent within this universe are as follows: Yajna as Swayambhuva Manu, Vibhu as Svaruchisa Manu, Satyasena as Uttama Manu, Hari as Tamasa Manu, Vaikunta as Revata Manu, Ajita as Chakshusha Manu, Vamana as Vaivasvata Manu. The present age is under the Vaivasvata Manu. Sarvabhauma as Savarnya Manu, Rishava as Dakshya Savarnya Manu, Vishvakshena as Brahma Savarnya Manu, Dharma Setu as Dharma Savarnya Manu, Sudhama as Rudra Savarnya Manu, Yogeshwar as Deva Savarnya Manu, Brishadbhanu as Indra Savarnya Manu. These are the names of one set of 14 Manus, covering 4,300,000 multiplied by 1,000 solar years, as described above. Then there are the Yuga avatars, or the incarnations of the millenniums. The Yugas are known as the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. The incarnations of each Yuga are a different color. The colors are like white, red, black, and yellow. In the Dwapara Yuga, the Lord Krishna in black color appeared, and in the Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya in yellow color appeared. So all the incarnations of the Lord are mentioned in the revealed scriptures. There is no scope for a misnomer to become an incarnation without the reference of Shastras. The incarnation does not declare himself as the incarnation of the Lord, but great sages indicate them by the symptoms mentioned in the revealed scriptures. The features of the incarnation and the particular type of mission which he has to execute are mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Apart from the direct incarnations, there are innumerable empowered incarnations. They're also mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Such incarnations are directly as well as indirectly empowered. When they are directly empowered, they are called such directly empowered incarnations are the Kumaras, Narada, Prithu, Shesha, Ananta, etc. So far vibhutis are concerned, they are very explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita in the Vibhuti Yoga chapter. And for all these different types of incarnations, the fountainhead is the Garbho Dakshayi Vishnu. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam kshiram sharkara yuktam kadati visheshatah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Adadanastrinam Danteridam Yache Punaha Punaha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Before we begin, I just wanted to answer a question that has been asked. What is that verse that they say they ask? What is that verse that you are chanting after saying Namaum Vishnu Padaya? Everyone is familiar with the obeisances to Śrīla Prabhupada, Namaum Vishnu Padaya, Namaste Saraswati. This particular verse is from a hymn in Sanskrit called the Prabhupada Stotram, called Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya. This was composed by a Sanskrit scholar, a Vaishnava scholar named Anantaram Shastri, who came to Mayapur for the festival in March of 1976. He was a devotee from a small village in India, a very accomplished Sanskrit scholar. That's what they call him, Shastri. Very advanced Sanskrit studies. And he could read Sanskrit just like most of us can read English or French or Spanish. Very, very good devotee. So when he came to Mayapur, in the evening, just before the sun would come down, Prabhupada had him going around to all the rooms with a conch shell. He would blow a conch shell and he would chant the Purusha Sukta, which is a hymn. As a matter of fact, it's a hymn that Prabhupada refers to in this verse about the creation of the universe. So the next day in the Bhagavatam class, he composed some prayers for Śrīla Prabhupada. Originally, there were 23 prayers called the Prabhupada Stotram. And he picked 5 of them that he would repeat the Sanskrit before the Bhagavatam class at the Mayapur festival in 1976. And one of these verses, a very short one, he explains, Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine, that you are the foremost disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta by the name of Bhaktivedanta. Prasannaya Prasantaya, you are very peaceful and equipoised. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah, I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master. It's a very nice eulogy in him. And he also had composed a couple of other verses. Later on in 1976, in late October, with the Gurukul children in Vrindavan, we used to recite 5 of these verses in front of Śrīla Prabhupada before the Guru Puja. So that's how these particular verses came into being. And Prabhupada recommended to myself in May of 1977 that devotees should learn these verses and sing them before Guru Puja. They're available in the internet. They're also on our website at KrishnaConsciousnessMovement.com. They're also on the Prabhupada Anugrah EU website in Europe. So this is just a very brief explanation. Now, this particular text of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is very important because what we saw in the discussion between Sutta Goswami and the sages of Nimesharanya, they were very inquisitive to find out. They had 6 questions that had been raised by the rishis. And one of these questions is basically, for what reason did the Lord take his birth from Mother Devaki? And then in question number 5 is the rishis asked him, please fully describe the activities of Lord Hari's incarnations within this universe. So Sutta Goswami in this chapter is starting the description of the incarnations. Now, before he deals with all the specific incarnations, what he's doing here is explaining the 3 Purushas. the Karana Dakshaya Vishnu, the Garbo Dakshaya Vishnu, and the Kshiro Dakshaya Vishnu. Śrīla Prabhupada has explained in the first few verses of this chapter several times the special position of these avatars, especially in text number 1, not text number 2 of this chapter. Now, because this is important to understand how the universe was created. In various religious faiths and religious scriptures, there are some vague descriptions of the creation of the universe. But here we see in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, all the details are given, exacting details of how the Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, who resides, who lays down in the water of the causal ocean, Karana. Karana means causal. There's an ocean between the spiritual world and material world called the Karana Samudra, or the causal ocean. And got this Mahavishnu, or Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, lies there. And from him, from the pores of his body, all the universes come out. Now, in each universe, there is a Garbo Dakshaya Vishnu. Garba Udaka Shayi Vishnu. That means that in the bottom of the universe, in the beginning, each universe is like an egg. Brahma-anda. Brahmanda means it's just like an egg. And in the bottom part of the universe, there's water that is created from the perspiration of the body of this Garbo Dakshaya Vishnu. As he lays in this water, there's a flower, the stem of a lotus flower that goes from his navel all the way to the top of the universe. And there comes Brahma. In this universe is Chaturmukha Brahma, the four-headed Brahma, who is the agent that Prabhupada calls him the topmost engineer. Now, we don't say that Brahma is the Supreme Lord. He is an agent of the Lord, a Devata, who is in charge of the mode of passion for creating, for manifesting the universe. And then from him, all the great sages, the Saptarishis, the four Kumaras, the Manus, everything comes from him. All the living entities, the planets, everything is created, originally from sound. So there are elaborate descriptions in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam as well. There are other very specific descriptions of all the living beings that are created and the sequence of creation. Nothing happens by chance. We've discussed this before. The creation of the world did not happen by chance. No individual living being has created this world. Now, the atheists may put forward so many arguments that because they cannot see, they cannot believe. But one can use his intelligence, his power of discrimination to understand that there is a creator. Prabhupada would often explain that in the material world, nothing happens by chance. People's education doesn't come by chance. They have to go to school, they have to study, they have to pass exams. People who work to create houses, to build houses. Just like I used to work at one point in some law firm in Toronto in a very big, tall building. Well, the building didn't happen by chance. It was a very big structure, 60 stories high. In the United States, they have big, in New York and other cities, they have stories, 100 stories high. They didn't fall from the sky. Somebody created, somebody engineered that building, somebody constructed this. There was a cause. If you take a conveyance or a car or a horse cart or a vehicle, it doesn't fall from the sky. Somebody created it. Somebody built it. So this universe, this world that we live in, somebody has created it. Now, why is that creation? This is for the rebellious living entities who have rebelled against the authorities of God. They're put here in this material world. That's why there is suffering. This word is also called Martya Loka, the place of death, that every living being who is born here is guaranteed to die. And along with that, Janma Mrityu, you're born, you're guaranteed to die. Jara Vyadi, old age and disease. Even the demigods in the higher planets who live for very, very long durations of life, they also have to depart. They also have to die. So that death principle is there for every living. Even Lord Brahma in the highest planet, Satyaloka, way above the pole star, he also will die. Of course, his position is special because when he dies, he's promoted to Vaikuntha along with the residents of Brahmaloka. But in this material world, it is guaranteed, just like there's an old proverb that debts and taxes are sure for everyone. Now, the atheistic mindset, they think, well, why did God create if there's so much suffering, so much? Well, this is similar to asking the government, why did you create the prison house? Why did you create this jail? There's so much suffering in that jail. There is no freedom. The food is not so good. You can't do whatever you want. You can't go wherever you want. Why did the government create that jail? Why? Because there will always be a class of living beings that will disobey the laws and order of the government. Therefore, in every country around the world, there are jails, there are prisons for disobedient, criminal-minded citizens. Now, one has a choice to be a good, obedient citizen and not go to jail, or to be a whimsical, law-breaking, disobeying criminal and go to jail. There is a choice. The government cannot be blamed. Oh, you created the jail. No. You behave in such a way that either you remain free or you go to jail. So this material world, this place that we're studying here is like that. This is a place for conditioned living beings who have rebelled, called Baddha Jiva. Baddha Jiva means conditioned souls. Conditioned souls means living beings who are entangled in the three modes of material nature. That's why we discussed yesterday in the Bhagavad Gita session, Karanam Guna Sangasya Sadasat Yoni Janmasu. Why is it that people are suffering? Why is it that some people are born highly intelligent, some people with less intelligence, some people are born, they become very beautiful, some people not so much, some people downright ugly, some people are born in a very rich family. Did it happen by chance? Some people are born in a very poor family. I was in Bangalore in 1972 when we first went there with Guru Kripa Swami, and we were invited to the house of a gentleman, and we were told he was a very wealthy man. And his wife came to the door and she was greeted us, and she had bangles, 24-karat bangles, all the way from her wrist all the way up. And she has these gold. I mean, there was so much gold on her, and it was not 14-karat gold, all 24-karat gold. They had Rolls Royces, Jaguars. They had a car totally with silver covering, so much opulence. They served us at one point with pure gold dishes. I'm thinking, like, what is this place? So this is an example of somebody, due to good karma from the past, had obtained a very opulent position. You go down to some other place, there's a beggar on the sidewalk, a little bowl. He's living on a little hut on the sidewalk. Now, that's a great disparity here. Now, somebody may say, why is that? Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, why is that? Karanam, what is the cause? Gunasanga, by association with the modes of material nature. Just like we will see later on in Bhagavad Gita. What are the three modes of material nature? The mode of goodness, Sattva-gun, the mode of passion, Rajagun, and the mode of ignorance, Tamagun. Now, especially in matters of eating, we were discussing yesterday morning why a person who is a devotee, a Vaishnava devotee, should not eat grains, foodstuff that is cooked by a non-Vaishnava, because you're going to absorb their karma, their vikarma, their bad karma will come on to you. You should only take foodstuff cooked by Vaishnavas and offered according to the proper method recommended, implemented, and taught by Śrīla Prabhupāda, the foremost Vaishnava. Because what happens if one eats foodstuff in a mode of passion, I mean, this is described in a Bhagavad Gita, for stuff that is too hot, too spicy, meat food stuff, mode of passion and ignorance, meat, fish, eggs, onions, garlic. These are foodstuffs in a mode of passion and ignorance. It will have a destructive effect on the human body, and the intelligence would be polluted. That's why we see that all the great acharyas were very controlled and very austere in their eating. Everyone on this call heard the story of Śrīla Prabhupada describing the eating habits of Raghunath Das Goswami, who would eat a little bit of buttermilk, a little bit of butter every day, and very little food. He was very, very thin. All the 6 Goswamis were extremely austere. They didn't live in big houses. They didn't live in palaces. They live under trees. There's a story in Vrindavan. For those of you who have been to Vrindavan, you know in the winter in Vrindavan, it gets a little cold. It doesn't snow like here in Northern California or St. Petersburg, Russia, or Toronto or Hamilton, Ontario, but it gets cold sometime close to the freezing point. To the point, because in India, the houses are constructed, a lot of time they don't have heating systems. They have walls made of bricks and stone, but you got to provide your own heating system. You got to heat it. And a lot of times that heating system is your hat, your chadar, your sweater, and your socks. So Prajumna Panditji went to Śrīla Prabhupada. He says, Prabhupada, it is so cold in the winter. How did the 6 Goswamis live here with no temple? How did they do that? And Prabhupada's reply, well, the 6 Goswamis are not ordinary men like you and me. Obviously, Prabhupada was being very humble. But the Prabhupada said they were the topmost paramamsas. They were not affected by cold. And they were absorbed in Krishna 24 hours a day. That is the difference. So in order to understand Krishna consciousness, why there are so many situations in front of us, that is due to past karma. So the question will come, how to end up all the bad past karma? Yesterday we read in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 2, where Śrīla Prabhupada gave a very elaborate description from the Nectar of Devotion in the Padma Purana, how the karma works from the previous karma that is in a seed form, karma that is currently acting due to past activities, and karma that will take place in the future. It's like a continuous cycle. How to stop that karma problem? There is a solution. That solution is to take shelter of Krishna. Take shelter of the path of bhakti, to worship Bhagavan, to become a bhakta of Bhagavan. Now, how do we do that? By taking shelter of a Shuddha Bhakta, of a completely pure devotee of the Lord. That is how to do it. Then one can overcome the influence of the modes of material nature. By ourselves, it's impossible. It doesn't work that way. You cannot try to conquer the modes of nature by our own endeavor. We cannot do it. It's impossible. It is only done by the mercy of a pure devotee. That's why we see throughout all the Vedic literatures, all the songs of Narottam Das Thakur, Govinda Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Bhaktivedanta Thakur especially, there are so many descriptions of these devotees, these exalted devotees, of how to take shelter of the pure devotee, how to engage in this bhakti. Because we always hear that we're not the body, but we are within this body with so many different influences of the modes of material nature acting upon us. So these great acharyas have given this solution of how to become free from the influence of the false ego. Let me tell another little story about this. Brahmananda Swami one time told me a story how he went to Śrīla Prabhupada and asked him the question, Śrīla Prabhupada, why is it so difficult in the material world for people to be humble, to become humble? Why? And Prabhupada's reply, well, it is very easy to understand. First, you have to understand what you really are. And Prabhupada pointed out to a little tip of his hair, he says, what you really are is 1/10,000th the tip of a human hair. That's what you really are. You're not the body. But we forget because of the influence of Maya. You see all over the internet, everybody is trying to promote some kind of hankering for sense gratification. So many people are promoting this solution, this product, that product, this idea, that idea, this political solution, that political solution. None of this will ever work. The only thing that will work is to understand you are not this piece of body. You are not this combination of blood, flesh, and bones. You are an eternal spirit soul. And that function of the soul is to link. Spirit soul means jiva, atma. Atma means soul. Jiva means individual soul. The function of that jivatma is to link with the param atma, with the supreme soul. I think in Christianity, they call that the Holy Ghost. In Vaishnavism, that link, this is called yoga. Yoga comes from a Sanskrit root, yug, Y-U-G, to link, to connect. That connection between individual soul and the supreme soul is done best by engaging in bhakti. How do we do that? Sravanam kirtanam vishnoho, smaranam padasevanam. First, one has to hear. Just like we often discuss this verse from the Padma Purana, Atas Krishna Namadi, na bhaved grayam indriye, that it is not possible to understand Krishna or God with these blunt material senses, contaminated senses. Well, how do we understand? We understand by hearing, by engaging the tongue, swayameva spuratyada, by engaging the tongue in vibrating sounds about Krishna and tasting food stuff offered to Krishna. Everybody has to eat. So what we say, what the Acharyas recommend, eat food stuff that had been offered to Krishna, offer it to Krishna with love and devotion, then you eat. And you vibrate, because every day people will vibrate so many things. You see it everywhere. There are so many questions and answers being given. So many questions and answers and so much frustration. There's two principles in the material world. Kankshati, hankering, and sochati, lamenting. They're constantly hankering for sense gratification to try to please themselves. Okay, are you pleased? No, you're not. That's why there's so much complaining. Oh, complaining about this group, that group, this political party, that political party, this country, that country, so much strife. This is Kali Yuga. So to overcome all of that, one has to take shelter of Krishna. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yishyami masuchaha. Krishna says at the end of that verse, don't worry. You're covered. I got your back. I got it under control. You surrender to me and I will protect you. In so many places in Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there are so many examples of devotees who have received the protection of Krishna. Our only task is to surrender to Krishna. Just like Bhaktivedanta Thakur in his songs, he's written so many wonderful songs expressing the mentality of a Vaishnava. It's like we are reading everybody with Vishwakarma Prabhu, Śrīla Prabhupada's notes in his diary when he came to America. And he wrote so much poetry on the Jaladuta, so many beautiful devotional sentiments expressing the real mindset of a devotee. Of course, Prabhupada was a Paramamsa, Shaktivish avatar. He was not an ordinary devotee. But he has written this to inspire us, to teach us how to become free from the influence of these modes of nature, how to become devoted to Krishna, and how to go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for that amazing explanation of these verses, and this is a great treasure for all of us to get the association of truly Krishna conscious Prabhupada disciples like yourself. It is a blessing and part of the service that we're rendering to humanity. I wanted to, there were so many wonderful points that you made, and I wanted to just quickly make a few comments before we call you back into the session. That this particular verse that Prabhupada has, and purport that he's given in the Bhagavatam, explains how great God is. Because in Christianity, which many of us were raised in, we got an understanding that God was simply a judge sitting behind a bench with no face, no explanation, just simply an all-powerful individual that's controlling the material world, but no explanation. But in this particular verse, it explains how Krishna expands himself unlimitedly in these different incarnations, which are numbered as 6. The Leela avatars, the Guna avatars, the Purusha avatars, the Manvantaras, the Shaktivesh avatars, and the Yuga avatars. So of all the avatars that are most important to us is Śrīla Prabhupada as a Shaktivesh avatar. And I wanted to refer to the group here, the Chaitanya Charitamrita here. This particular volume is volume 8 of the Madhya Leela. And we're not going to read it because I'm going to leave it to all of you to go there. In the instructions to Sanatana Goswami by Mahaprabhu himself. And Vinkat Prabhu, if you could go to the introduction of chapter 20. I'm just going to read down the page in the introduction, just to give you an idea, everyone, of what we have. So going down first, it's the first, carry down. Yeah, keep going. First, they discussed the constitutional position of the living entities, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami how the living entity is one of the Lord Krishna's energies. After this, the Lord explained the way of devotional service. While discussing the absolute truth, Sri Krishna, the Lord, analyzed Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, as well as the expansions the Lord called Swayam Rupa, Tad Ekatma, and Avesha, which are divided into various branches known as Vaibhava and Prabhava. Thus, the Lord described the many forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also described the incarnations of God within the material world, incarnations such as the Purusha avatars, Manvantara avatars, Guna avatars, and Shaktivesh avatars. The Lord also discussed the divisions of Krishna's different ages, such as Balya and Poganda, and the different pastimes of the different ages. He explained how Krishna attained his permanent form when he reached youth. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained and described everything to Sanatana Goswami. Now, this particular chapter, chapter 20, it goes on for 227 pages. So it's a very detailed explanation. And I want you to go, Vinkat, to page 227, text 403 in chapter 20. Yes. Thus I have briefly described Krishna's manifestation of transcendental forms. This subject matter is so large that even Lord Ananta cannot describe it fully. Go ahead, next verse. In this way, Krishna's transcendental forms are expanded unlimitedly. No one can count them. Whatever I've explained is simply a little glimpse. It is like showing the moon through the branches of a tree. And text 405, whoever hears or recites these descriptions of the expansions of Krishna's body is certainly a very fortunate man. Although this is a very difficult to understand, one can nonetheless acquire some knowledge about the different features of Krishna's body. So here it's key. This is a very difficult subject matter, but there's all kinds of transcendental benefit that is there. And finally, I wanted to just quickly touch on Śrīla Prabhupāda's position and compare him to the 6 Goswamis. That Śrīla Prabhupāda came from India with no money. He had no connections with anyone here, simply a determination to carry out the order of a spiritual master. And we're reading in the diary of Śrīla Prabhupāda how difficult his life was in New York, how he went from September 19th of 1965 up to now we're in April of 66. And still he was getting 3, 2, 4 people coming to his class after almost a year and a half. Did he stop? No. He never gave up his desire to please his spiritual master by carrying out his order. Empowered by the Lord's mercy and by his guru. And in terms of Śrīla Prabhupāda's visit to Toronto, and Prabhupada was not interested in personal glory or personal position. When he came to Toronto in 1975, it was such an amazing experience for all of us that were there. And Jagadish was the president at the time. And I believe I was the Sankirtan leader. So we were going to arrange a hotel room for Prabhupada at the Royal York, which is a fancy hotel. Because we had no facility, we had over 50 people living in the ashram. We had a three-story house on Gerrard Street, 187. There was like 18 brahmacharis living on the third floor. So there was absolutely no room for Prabhupada to stay. So the decision was made, okay, we'll arrange a room for Prabhupada at the Royal York Hotel. When Prabhupada heard about this, he declined. No, I do not want to stay at the Royal York Hotel. All we had was a Grihasta had a bachelor apartment on Pembroke Street. Now, for those who have never been to Toronto, back then, Pembroke Street was where all the drug addicts lived, where all the debauchees lived. And it was around the corner from the temple. So Prabhupada accepted the room of one of the Grihasta couples who had this who just had this regular place to stay. But this was Prabhupada's position. He was not interested in any kind of personal comfort. It was difficult because he had to go up the stairs in this place. He had to use the cane and move up and down the stairs. But Prabhupada told us, he said, I want to be with my devotees. That was his example. And so Prabhupada lived with us in the Sankirtan mission, and he was never interested in anything except the service of his guru and the service of his disciples. Prabhupada was extremely humble, everyone, just so you know. And he was not interested in trying to take a role as the big guru, but always remained a humble servant of all of his disciples. So, Yaśodā-nandana, please, if you could make a further comment. And then we have a lot of interesting questions that have been brought forward. And I see that Ram Raghava has this question and Nityananda Prabhu has given questions. So we'll address those after Yaśodā-nandana's further comments.
I just want to speak with regards to the three Vishnus. For those who are interested in further detailed discussion, you can go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 4, Bhumirapo Analo Vayuhu. In the purport in the first paragraph, Prabhupada describes material nature is called Prakriti, or the energy of the Lord, in his different Purusha incarnations, expansions as described in the Sattvata Tantra. Vishnus tutrini rupani purushakyani ato viduhu. Ekantu mahata srastri dvitiyam tvandasam stitam trityam sarvabhutastam tani gyatva vimuchyate. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes three Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy known as Mahatattva. The second, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in each of them. The third, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, is diffused as the all-pervading supersoul in all the universes and is known as Paramatma, who is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these three Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. Very interesting description from Śrīla Prabhupāda. I wanted to, last night I got a text from a Bhakta Robert. Dr. Robert sent a very nice text of citations about the holy name of Krishna from the Hari Bhaktivilas. This is quoted. This is a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna in the Adi Purana, quoted by Sanatana Goswami. Interestingly, today is the disappearance day of Sanatana Goswami, also Purnima. Today in India, in Mayapur time, is the Purnima called Vyasa Purnima, the appearance day of Vyasadeva. They also call it Guru Purnima. So these verses are very nice. I'm going to read a few of them. Nanama sadrisham jnanam, nanama sadrisham vratam, nanama sadrisham dhyanam, nanama sadrisham phalam. There is no knowledge equal to my nama, holy name. No vow is equal to my nama. No meditation is like nama. No result is like nama. Nanama sadrisha tyagi, nanama sadrisha shamaha, nanama sadrisham punyam, nanama sadrisham gatihi sadrishihi gatihi. No renunciation is like my nama, holy name. No peace like my nama. No piety is like my nama. No goal of life is like my nama. Nameva parama muktir, nameva parama gatihi. Nameva parama shantir, nameva paramastitihi. My nama is the supreme liberation. My nama is the supreme goal. My nama is the topmost place. My nama is the supreme abode. Nameva parama gaktir, nameva parama gatihi. Nameva parama pritir, nameva parama smritihi. My nama is the supreme devotion. My nama is the supreme thought. My nama is the supreme happiness. My nama is supreme meditation. Nameva karanam jantur, nameva parama prabhurivacha, nameva parama radyo, nameva paramu guruhu. My nama is the life of all living entities. My nama is the supreme Lord and Master. My nama is the supreme object of worship. My nama is the supreme guru. Then there's another text. Nama yuktam janam drishtva snigdo bhavati yo naraha sayati paramam sthanam Vishnuna sahamodati. Lord Krishna further explains, a person who feels happy when he sees others chant my holy name goes to the supreme abode and enjoys with Lord Vishnu. Tasman namani kaunteya bhajasvadridamanasaha nama yukta priyosmakam nama yuktu babarjuna. For this reason, O Arjuna, you should worship my holy names, chant my holy names, and become friends with they who chant my names. So in this way, there are so many wonderful verses praising the power of chanting the name of Krishna. Now I realize we have a limited amount of time and quite a few questions. I see that there are 2 questions with regards to ladies that have children. They want, they're raising some issue with regards to the combination of time between the kids and bhakti. But first, I wanted to ask Ram Raghava Prabhu and his good wife, Bhakti and Eunice, they've been waiting for quite some time for their question. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Can
Krishna.
you hear? Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the nice class, wonderful class, to both you and Vishwakarma Prabhu. I had a question, but before that, I just wanted to make a brief comment. We're very excited and waiting for the initiation ceremony. We noticed how Bhaktivedanta Prabhu looks so effulgent, shaved up. A few years ago on Govardhan Puja, I had the fortune of performing the initiation ceremony under the guidance of Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu in 2020, I believe. And the day before, I shaved up. And when the 2 devotees are present here, Viprahita Das and Rasikeshwari Devidasi, when they saw Viprahita Prabhu asked if he could also shave up, and I encouraged that. So that's very nice. It's very nice to see Bhaktivedanta Prabhu shaved up, very effulgent. But anyway, my question is regarding the karma of being transferred when you eat grains cooked by non-Vaishnavas. I was wondering if you could please also comment on the consciousness of the person who's cooking and what effect it has on the person who eats that cooking cooked by somebody else, depending on their consciousness, and why we have certain rules about cooking for Krishna.
I guess my answer basically, why did the Acharyas, all the way from Ramanuja, Vedanta Deshika, Pillai Lokacharya, Ranga Ramanuja, Madhva, Jayatirtha, Raghavendra Swami, so many Acharyas in our Sampradaya, Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Lord Chaitanya, Vishnu Chakravarti, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Śrīla Prabhupāda, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Why is it that all of them have recommended specific ways of cooking boga, specific ways of offering boga, and given warnings that Vaishnava should only take foodstuff that is offered to Krishna? Why? Because they knew these great acharyas were very powerful living beings. They're not insignificant people like us. And they were trying to elevate people, trying to bring people to a higher platform of devotion. They knew if you take proper foodstuff that is offered to Krishna, you will get great benefit. And if you take foodstuff that is not properly offered to Krishna, or rajasic food or tamasic food, there's an adverse reaction. It's not a very complicated thing to understand. Prabhupada gave instruction. Yesterday in the class we were reading how Śrīla Prabhupada gave specific instruction how to offer the foodstuff that you cannot directly offer to Krishna. Now, some people have different opinions on that. Everybody is entitled to their pious belief and their opinion. That's fine. What we are concerned about is how His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the Krishna Consciousness, of what he prescribed of how the foodstuff should be offered, what kind of foodstuff should be offered, who should be preparing foodstuff for deities. These are the real fundamental questions, because this is a very important. Everybody here on this call is going to eat. I see some people. I see Bhakta Vengat. I see you. one lady named Prema Shakti Devi Dasi, so many people. Everybody's going to have to eat today. We know that. That's a given fact. And every Vaishnava understands that he should take Bhagavat Prasadam, foodstuff that has been sanctified and offered to Krishna. What is the proper way of offering? What did Prabhupada say about how to offer the foodstuff? That is very important, because if one takes foodstuff that is not offered to Krishna or not properly offered to Krishna, there may be an entirely different effect. Let me give an example. I was working for this law firm in Toronto for many years. So I went to the Toronto temple at one point, and they used to have a restaurant, and they were, cooking and offering. So one devotee came to me one time. He was a sympathizer of the temple. He was not an initiated devotee. And he came to me talking. He says, I think that all the problems in this movement is a lot of devotees are not eating proper prasadam. I says, what do you mean? I said, well, who is it offered to? How is it prepared? What did Prabhupada say about how it should be prepared? Who is cooking for the deities? What ingredients are they using? In other words, there was a lot of questions that he had, very intelligent questions, for which I had some answers at the time. But the basic fundamental point is, in order to properly follow Prabhupada, things have to be offered according to the method that he prescribed, in the way that he prescribed. People cannot invent their own way of following the Acharya or manufacture their own way. That's why Prabhupada used to say, be very careful who you eat from. It's like at one point, devotees used to go to some temples in Malaysia and Indonesia. In some of these places, they have these demigod temples, Devata temples, where they offer foodstuff, Bhoga, Shiva, Brahma, Ganesh, Kali, everybody and their brother. And devotees actually, Prabhupada, can we take that prasadam? Prabhupada says, no. You can only take prasadam that is offered to Krishna or Vishnu Tattva deities. And also, what is the consciousness of the cook? That's why Prabhupada recommended that when people cook and offer to the deities, it should be done by Brahmin, twice initiated devotees. Now, if somebody is not yet a Brahmin, at least they can offer in the way that Prabhupada recommended, with the proper foodstuff. So this is very important point. Prabhupada at one point, Gargamuni in Calcutta, devotees had problems. There was some devotees had been seen by a life member going to buy foodstuff from a vegetarian restaurant. And the life member was very upset, and he went to the temple, why are you eating outside from these nonsense people? And devotees said, well, we don't have any cooks here. It's very difficult to cook in India with a little coal stove or anything. They don't have, at least in those days in 1970, 71, we didn't have the same facilities as now. So the life member says, I'll send you a cook. He was from Rajasthan. He sent a Marwari cook who was very expert. In India, they have these little, with two little coal stoves, he was able to cook a feast, literally, for 20, 30 people, and maybe an hour and a half. Chapatis, rice, dal, sabji, chutney, so many things. And then it was brought to Prabhupada. Well, the devotee is this person a devotee? Well, he was a vegetarian. He was from a Vaishnava family. Prabhupada says, you offer it with love and devotion. That will make it prasadam. So, there are so many circumstances that devotees speak about, because this is a very important point. Another thing is, we don't take rice and food grains from non-devotees, because karma is transferred through that. If you go to some place, they want to offer you something, you can request them to offer some fruit, some milk, some yogurt, something, because that is less karma transferring food than rice and things like that. I think there's some other question here. There's some lady, Anna from Russia. She says, I have two questions. What to do if children cry often and want a lot of attention? Well, a lot of adults want a lot of attention too. They don't let me clean my house, chant my rounds, etc. I have 4 little kids and they always want attention. Yeah, you probably figured out, Mataji, a lot of men also want a lot of attention. It's hard. Prabhupada said children need attention, but I'm tired and have a lot of things to do, and I would like to chant more rounds. And second question is how to increase enthusiasm. Before I was more interested in Krishna consciousness, and now it seems I'm losing my interest and enthusiasm. It is sad. Maybe I'm just tired, but I would like to serve Krishna more enthusiastically. Very good question. I think it applies to a lot of people in household life, not just you. Many of us have been in that situation for many years, raising children, working, going to jobs. For one thing, yesterday in the Bhagavad Gita class, we quoted a letter from Śrīla Prabhupāda where Prabhupada was telling a lady, for you, child worship is more important than deity worship. Do whatever it takes to raise the children. Number two, take advantage of modern technology. If you have a cell phone, go on YouTube, type in the search box, Japa Prabhupada. Put the tape of Prabhupada on and chant with him, even if it's not on your beads right away. Hear Śrīla Prabhupada. That will increase the enthusiasm. That will increase the Krishna consciousness. Let me give you an example. I live in the mountains here, and just like in Russia, sometimes in the morning, even at this time of the year, it gets a little cool. The first thing I do in the morning after obeisance to Prabhupada is go on the cell phone, put the tape of Prabhupada chanting japa, and I'm hearing Śrīla Prabhupada. I want to hear Śrīla Prabhupada chant the holy name. Then after I chant, put tilak, and then I chant some rounds. In other words, we have to hear from Śrīla Prabhupada and associate with him to derive that enthusiasm, to derive that inspiration, and then in this way make some progress. As far as the children, well, that is something I don't really know how to manage 4 children. Just pray to Krishna, but focus on your children, Mataji. It is definitely Prabhupada's instruction. Hear from Prabhupada, hear lectures and everything. I hope it helps. I think we have many more questions from Balaram, who usually has some very interesting, thought-provoking questions. I don't know if we have time to deal with them all.
Yeah, we do. We do have some time here. I wanted to go to Nityananda first. He's written some quite intriguing questions. And Nityananda, do you want to speak them or should we read them? What would you prefer? I can get Venkat to read them. They're written concisely. Should we just read the questions?
Yes, sure.
To start? Nityananda? Venkat, why don't you go ahead? Venkat, why don't you go ahead and read the questions for Yasoda's answers? Let's get into this a bit. This is philosophy.
The first question was, when the Jiva souls fall from the spiritual world, do they first take the position of Brahma when they enter the material world and then descend downwards towards lower life forms in lower lokas because of their conditioning? These are just some of the things that devotees claim. Can you please comment on this and give some evidence from Shastra?
There's a reference in a conversation with Śrīla Prabhupada where he talks about this topic. He does not elaborate exactly how that takes place. There is another reference that I've heard where Śrīla Prabhupada describes when the living entities come back in the material world, their karma is in seed form, like a bija. And that karma is assigned by Lord Brahma to take birth in the material world according to their previous karma, purva karma. That's why they're giving different births in the material world at different positions. So basically, as far as how Lord Brahma comes down, or whether or not the Jiva souls all take the position of Brahma, I don't intellectually or mentally understand this, but there is a reference by Śrīla Prabhupada with regards to that, although I don't think he elaborated a lot on this point. So then there's the other question, when partially annihilation occurs, when Lord Brahma night begins, does Lord Rudra also get annihilated? And what happens to the spiritual planets in the material universe like Dhruva Loka? Dhruva Loka, or the pole star, is a terrestrial planet. That planet is not destroyed when the material world is destroyed, either the partial devastation or the final devastation. Now, when all of these different, Rudra, or Lord Shiva, has his own planet just on the boundary of the material world, and close to the spiritual world. This is described in the Brahma Samhita. Because what happens is when the time for dissolution comes, Lord Shiva, he has this dim drum. Some of you have been in India. There's the little drum. They shake left and right, and it makes this sound. And Lord Shiva does this dance, this called Tandav Nritya. And then the sun gets 12 times hotter than usual. And everything in the material world is burnt to ashes. And then the waters of devastation come. That's how the material world in the Puranas, that's how the material world is devastated at the time of dissolution. Now there's partial dissolution and there's final dissolution. I was speaking of final dissolution. Now Lord Brahma himself, he goes back to the spiritual world, to Vaikuntha, when the material world is finished. And the living beings who are with Brahma in Satyaloka, they go back to the spiritual world. That's what happens. But Lord Rudra, his planet is not annihilated. It's like a very special position that he has his own planet. There are some maps that are on the internet where it shows the spiritual world, the material world, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. There's a map where Lord Rudra has his own planet. That map was drawn on the basis of the Brahma Samhita.
Yes, Prabhu. And one more thing is just that there is only one Lord Shiva for all the material universes. Is that correct? There's different
Rudras for different universes. There's called Sadashiva, or the one that lives always in that planet. There's also 11 Rudras, and they have different functions. There is a Rudra and a Brahma, a Shiva and a Brahma in each universe. It's not there's only one Shiva for all the universes.
So then which Shiva destroys the material universe?
The Shiva within this universe.
Oh, okay.
This universe.
Okay.
We're just speaking of this universe.
Yes. All right.
Just like there is in each universe, there's a Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. There's only one Mahavishnu. And in each universe, there's a Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and a Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And Lord Brahma comes from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. From him, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras begin, and then the Sapta Rishis, called the Manasaputras, the Manus, and then the universe, all the living entities are created according to their karma. But Lord Shiva, in each universe, there's a Lord Shiva and a Lord Brahma. There is an Upanishad called the Narayana Upanishad where this is described, that in the beginning there was only Narayana, or the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they are coming from Narayana, from this Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, like that. It's like a sequence. Yes, every time a universe is created, there's a certain sequence. And the living entities come in when Lord Brahma, after he has created this lotus flower, he's on top of the lotus flower, there's no living beings in the universe. Yes. He chants Om, he performs tapasya, he gets the inspiration, and then the Sapta Rishis, the four Kumaras, the Prajapatis, the Manus, they're created, and then they expand all the living entities according to their karma. But within the universe, that planet, that pole star, is never destroyed. That's a special planet. It's like that and the Sweta Dweep, where Lord Vishnu resides in the ocean of milk. That's not destroyed.
Yes, and one more thing. So the glance of Mahavishnu is Lord Shiva that impregnates the material universe. Is that correct?
Yes.
The glance of Mahavishnu. So, yes. So Lord Shiva also has an abode in Mount Kailash, the borders, as you mentioned, the borders between the spiritual world and the material world as well. Yes. So when Mahavishnu doesn't get destroyed in the actual annihilation or the distillation.
He has agents. Mahavishnu is just laying there in the causal ocean, enjoying himself. That's why he has agents, like Durga, like Shiva, like Brahma, like that. In other words, that's the function. Lord Krishna is always separate, and he has his inertial energy. By glancing, there's a picture that was made in Radhakund in the 19-something, where they show Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean, and he's glancing at the material energy, and the material energy is agitated, and that starts the creation of the material world. In the Brahma Samhita, there's elaborate descriptions of how that process takes place. I respectfully
read about
subject.
it.
You may want to read that because I have limited understanding. Because you talk to me inside my head, it's hollow, it's empty.
Yeah.
So I'm
I'll
just
read it.
quoting
Thank
like
you.
a parrot.
Radhe, sir.
But
Hare Krishna.
these are very good questions for devotees because what's happening, we're reading the Bhagavatams, and the more we read and discuss and analyze, we get a very crystal clear understanding of how the sequence of creation comes about, the position of Lord Brahma, his life, Rudra, Shiva, the material energy, the Mahavishnu, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. It's quite amazing because we were referring to these different religious traditions like Christianity, Islam, Jewish. I mean, they have certain moral principles, but there's no other group in the world. There's no other religion with so much detail about the creation of the material world, and what to speak of the spiritual world.
Yes.
Just yesterday, I was listening to a recording of Brahma Samhita from some women in South India. They were chanting the Brahma Samhita, but when you analyze the Brahma Samhita from chapter 5, text 29, for the first few verses after text 29 is a description of what God looks like. Where does he live? What does he do? What are his associates? And then it goes on about so many of the personalities that are assisting God, they're assisting Krishna, Narayana, in the creation of the world. There's Ganesh, there's Surya, there's Durga, there's Rudra. They all have a function. It's like the government. Let's say you have a king. The king has certain ministers that have got a lot of power. They will have a lot of power to make decisions, but they're all under the king. And these various ministers will perform certain functions under the direction and authority of the king. So all of these personalities like Rudra, Shiva, Durga, Ganesh, and all these demigods, Surya, they all perform certain specific functions for helping Krishna in the management and the creation of the universe like that.
Thank you.
Somebody said about taking cold bath in that climate is even more crazy. Yes. Let me tell a little story. In 1973 in December, we saw Prabhupada and we gave him a donation after having traveled to different temples. So Prabhupada looked at us and he says, so where do you live? And we told Prabhupada a lot of time we lived in a van. We cook in a van and sometimes we'll rent a motel. And Prabhupada said, so what time do you get up in the morning? And we said 3:30. And what do you do? I said, well, we take a cold bath. Prabhupada says, I used to do that at Radha Damodar temple, even in the winter. It's very healthy. And Prabhupada said, if you take a cold bath during Brahma Muhurta, you will prolong your life. I said, oh, very interesting. Then Prabhupada said, what do you eat? In those days, we were cooking khichdi on a little Coleman stove. Guru Kripa would cook this khichdi with mung dal, a little rice, and a little cauliflower or something, and spices. And we asked Prabhupada, we cook the khichdi, we offer it to you in Panchatattva. Prabhupada said, that is excellent food. If you eat khichdi every day, you'll never get sick. This is the food of sadhus. In India, that was the tradition. This is the food of sadhus. So just a little tidbit of information. Cold bath is very healthy. Maybe we'd like to make an announcement and a reminder for everybody on this call. Tonight at 6 o'clock, Pacific Standard Time, California time, at 6 p.m., 9 p.m., Eastern Time in Canada and the East Coast of the United States, we will have the initiation ceremony for Bhakta Michael in Montreal, Bhakta Venkat, and Bhaktin Deepika in Bangalore. I believe that next day in Bangalore, it will be the disappearance day of Sanatan Goswami, the appearance day of Śrīla Vyasadeva called Guru Purnima or Vyasa Purnima, and the beginning of Chaturmasya. Very auspicious day, very auspicious day. So we will have a kirtan and we'll have some reading from Śrīla Prabhupada explaining, and we will have some of you, let me just turn the computer here, maybe that will help. Some of you might be able to see the setup. I don't know what you can see from your angle. Yeah, I think the camera fell off here, so we'll see tonight. I'm not able to adjust things right now, but basically tonight at 6 o'clock, we'll have the program. So we invite everybody to participate. And I hope that these few answers are helpful. I don't know if there are any more questions or comments, or chastisements or admonishments are always welcome as well. Hare Krishna.
That's it with the questions. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Maybe we can have the kirtan, and we welcome. Go ahead, Vishwa.
We have Balaram that had a question. I think what we'll do is we'll let him present his question. We'll move towards the end of the discussion today, but we don't want to leave people out. Balaram, your question or comment.
Hare Krishna. For the first time, I didn't have a question.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got
But I did ask Yaśodā Prabhuji if he could, which I'll do right now. There's a new devotee who just came to us. She's new into this group. I met her yesterday. She's got an amazing connection and appreciation to Prabhupada. And she's right here. Her name is Sri Hari Radha. Maybe we can just invite her to say a few words about Prabhupada.
She has a question? Yes, please. Sri Hari Radha.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hari
Krishna
Bol.
to all. I just wanted to ask, when it was read, I think from the Bhagavatam, about the Harinam should be chanted and worshipped, and there were some verses that were read. I just wanted to know that which canto and chapter and verse number, can that be shared in the link? Because I would like to go back and read it again, because it was really nice to hear that part. And this class was very great. And I'm hearing it for the very first time. And you mentioned about the initiation. If I'm in US, that means I have to attend at 9 p.m.
Are you on the East Coast? Whereabouts are you?
Yeah, USA, near Washington, D.C.
Okay, yes. So it'll be 9 o'clock, and you can ask Vincott for the link for the program.
Yeah, you can also join our WhatsApp group. I think I've shared the link with you, so you'll get a reminder also.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It was so nice to be with you all. It was very merciful. I'm really excited and happy to be among all of you and hear Bhagavatam in regular courses. So that would be really nice. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And we do want to thank everyone today for attending this sadhana program of Krishna Consciousness, because a lot of us are busy throughout the week, but we have 3 classes a week. One on Saturday morning, Bhagavad Gita. We're reading all 3 main scriptures, Bhagavad Gita. Sunday, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and Wednesdays in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're studying the Chaitanya Charitamrita books by Śrīla Prabhupāda. So this is a full diet of spiritual Shravanam Kirtanam to help us all stay steady in our practice of Krishna consciousness, chanting our rounds, following the principles, and associating with devotees. It's an entire recipe for success in spiritual life. And we embrace everyone that comes to us with the opportunity to join our mission of spreading Krishna consciousness using all different types of tools in the service of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda. So now we're going to go to the last section of this discussion, which is the Kirtan by Śrīla Prabhupāda. And thank you very much again, everyone, and continue to spread this network of opportunity with as many people as you can. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hari Bol.
Shakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thanks everybody for participating. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.